Hey, what's up guys? Coach Ryan Family here from the Viper Pit. Today I'm going to talk about getting jacked on a budget. Muscle building nutrition when the funds are low. Now I'm qualified to talk about this one because my first job out of college, I barely made anything and I really had to stretch every time. So this is something I became an expert at. And I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks with how to get the most nutrients for your dollar, okay? It's a tough thing these days because if people are telling you if you want to grow, you got to eat more. And you're like, excuse me, I don't have the money to eat more. More food equals more money spent. Another thing that people will tell you, you got to have organic, grass-fed, wild, free-range, cured with the tears of a monk type food, which is a lot more pricey than the conventionally farmed, conventionally raised stuff. I'll tell you where that may be a benefit and where some ways around it, okay? So first things first, before we dive into the specifics, the number one rule is if budget is tight, don't waste your money on supplements. Maybe an argument can be made for like a multivitamin just to make sure you're covering your bases so you don't get scurvy or rickets or something weird like that. But truthfully, if you're eating properly, there's no need to spend a ton of money on a bunch of different supplements. Do supplements help? Yes, but they're the sprinkles on the icing on the cake. So they can help you, but they're not going to make a huge difference. What's going to make more of a difference is going to be proper nutrition, sleep, and smashing the weights, okay? So with that being said, let's talk about getting jacked on a budget. So first and foremost, and again, I apologize for my writing. I could have been I don't have the brains to go to medical school, but I sure have the handwriting of a doctor on a prescription pad. So first of all, protein is the most expensive part of this whole aspect. It's also the most overdone. So that's a great way to cut back on the amount of money you're spending. Simply eat a little less protein. If you're in a calorie surplus, which is the environment that's best for growing new tissue, calorie surplus is where you're actively gaining weight each week on the scale. If you're in a calorie surplus, you actually need a little less protein per pound of body weight. So an area that I like to go to be safe is around 0.8 to 1 grams of protein per pound of body weight, which translates to 160 to 200 grams of protein for a 200-pound individual that's looking to put on size. You might even be able to get away with a little less than that, assuming your carbs and fats are high, because those are protein-sparing nutrients. But just to be on the safe side, 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Inexpensive sources, eggs. You can get a lot of eggs for not a lot of money. Things like salmon, tuna, sardines in cans or pouches, those are good options. People will try to scare you, saying, oh, tuna and mercury. Yeah, if you're eating 38 cans of tuna a day, it could be a problem, but as long as you're rotating your protein sources, there's no reason you can't include it as part of your diet. A big one here is pot roasts. Okay, if you look at steak, if you go to the beef section of your local butcher, you will notice things like filet, sirloin, ribeye. Those are all really, really expensive because they're really tender cuts of meat. Things like eye of round or anything that says roast on it, those tend to be a lot tougher. Well, when you put them in a crock pot, which is another tip I'm going to get to, when you put them in a crock pot, they become very, very tender and they're very, very inexpensive. So I use roasts constantly when I was on a really, really tight budget. So what you do, it's pretty simple. You throw roasts, a little bit of salt, a little bit of water, or chicken broth, or beef broth, whatever, a bunch of vegetables, potatoes in a crock pot, set that bad boy on low for 8 hours overnight, and when you wake up the next day, you've got an entire day's worth of meals in your crock pot. So it's a really affordable option, and it's also great for people that suck at cooking. Like this guy, okay? Another one is to hunt and fish. That is a great way to get protein essentially for free if you know how to fillet a fish, that's free. If you or you take your kill to a local butcher shop. My wife's uncle, every fall, he comes and says, hey, I'm going hunting, would you like a deer? I say, absolutely, bring me a deer. And what it ends up costing after the butcher processes it is about $1.25 per pound of high quality meat. Now, that's how you get your organic, wild, natural food is with hunting. So that deer will have eaten its natural diet its whole life, so it's not raised on a farm or anything like that. So that's what I like to do. So right now my freezer is stocked full of venison. You can hunt for elk, venison, whatever you want, or have someone make friends with people that like to hunt if you don't like to do it yourself. So that covers proteins. Truthfully, do you need a protein shake? Not necessarily. Yes, there are some benefits to them during times like during workout nutrition or after a workout. But if funds are tight, stick to whole food proteins. It's going to get you a long way. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to talk about the protein-sparing nutrients, which are carbs and fats. So the more carbs and fats you have in your diet, the less protein you need, and the less likely your body is going to steal from your muscles to get those amino acids that it needs. Carbs are cheap. That's the beauty of them. They are very, very cheap, very easy to afford, especially if you have a membership to something like a Costco or a Sam's, a discount grocery. But we're looking at things like potatoes, rice, oats, beans, frozen berries. Those are all good. For things like fruits and vegetables, frozen or canned is often cheaper than fresh. Another thing, here's an idea, here's a thought. Start your own garden. Go to a farmer's market. I love telling the story. My grandfather survived through the Great Depression, and funds were very, very low. You think you might be broke. Look at what those people had to survive on back in the early 1900s during the Depression. So my grandfather hunted and fished for his protein sources. He had a garden where he had things like potatoes and strawberries and all different kinds of vegetables, and that's how they sustained themselves. So when they went to the grocery store, they really only had to buy bread and milk. That was it. And they didn't even really need that, but you know, that's a topic for another day. All right. So grow your own. You may have to put a little elbow grease into it, but who cares? If you're working on a tight budget, you got to do what you got to do to make it happen. How bad do you want it is the question. Do you want it bad enough to start your own garden, to take care of it, to grow it? And guess what? If you do it the way you want, you can make it an organic garden. Okay. And finally, last but not least, I don't know if you can see this. For fats, you have things like extra virgin olive oil and nut butters. If you buy them in bulk at a discount grocery store, they're actually relatively inexpensive. Good way, or even with the meats, you can get some good healthy fats. So, but olive oil really shouldn't break the bank on that one. Okay, now, as an experiment, just to prove that I'm not full of crap, I went to the grocery store, and not even a discount store, it was a quote-unquote one of the more expensive stores, and I went shopping to see what I could do for a day's worth of meals for myself. So this is what I came up with. I'm loving this flipboard, eh? Pretty cool. Okay. 2.5 pounds eye of round roast, $6.45. Again, if you go hunting or have someone that hunts, that can be even cheaper. 8 large potatoes. These were big hunk of potatoes, $2.99. Bell peppers, a head of celery, and carrots, each for $1.99. And then 6 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil for 99 cents. This gave me 4,289 calories, 286 grams of protein, 550 grams of carbs. I ain't kidding, those were big potatoes, okay? 550 grams of carbs, 105 grams of fat, for, drum roll, $16.50. The truth of the matter is, I don't even actually need that many calories. I was just trying to see if I had a really, really big day of eating, what I could do. I could probably do it for even less than that. I was not able to finish all of this food in a single day that day, okay? Comes out to 260 calories per dollar spent. That's not too shabby. Now, this is also going to depend on where in the world you live. So if you live in Los Angeles, for example, this could be a little more expensive. If you live in the middle of North Dakota, this could be a little less expensive. But the point of the matter is that's not going to break the bank. $16.50, I mean, that's a whole day's worth of eating for really what you could kill in one meal out if you went to a restaurant. So, I hope I gave you guys some good ideas for how to eat on a budget. Ditch the supplements, go for whole foods, and make sure you're picking the right types of foods. A crock pot is going to be a lifesaver for you. You can do it with chicken, you can do it with beef, lots of vegetables and potatoes loaded up, and it's easy to cook too. I'm Coach Ryan Finley from the Viper Pit. If you like these videos, please hit subscribe below. Leave me any questions or comments you have, and I will see you next time. Boom!